When we come back, we're going to talk about a brutal loss, of course, to the Chargers for the... We're back on NFL Live. Some news coming out of Minnesota. Carson Wentz will undergo season-ending surgery to repair a left shoulder injury he originally suffered early October. This now leaves JJ McCarthy set to reclaim his starting spot after being sidelined after week 2 with a high ankle sprain. And the Vikings ranked 29th in offensive efficiency this season, so hasn't been great no matter who's under center. But in Carson Wentz's 5 games, the team has averaged 8 more points and 100 more yards per game. JJ McCarthy was also sacked twice as often as Wentz, and the team failed to gain a first down on more than half of their drives with McCarthy. Marcus, whether it's JJ McCarthy or Carson Wentz, the offense hasn't looked right. What's the main issue here for the Vikings?
Yeah, this offensive line, they give up pressures in droves, and sometimes it's so bad because it's through the center of the pocket. And you think about both of these quarterbacks. Carson Wentz has had a history of holding the ball and trying to make the extreme play. And then JJ McCarthy being a rookie where everything is sped up. This pressure in the center of the pocket becomes a huge issue when you got both quarterbacks with those issues that they have to overcome. And you think about it, like I was asking the question every week to Dan and MK and RC, like, what do you do when JJ McCarthy is back healthy? Well, obviously the injury has happened for Carson Wentz. And what you hope with JJ is that while he's been out, he's been able to kind of see the game and process it and see the things that he needs to get better at. But this offensive line, more importantly, has to get better in pass protection and also running the football as well to help JJ McCarthy, more importantly, not only being young, coming off an injury, not a lot of reps. So it's hard to foresee this offense getting better, but this offensive line can help in a large part of that.
So lack of reps because all last year hurt and then comes this year and gets hurt again. So lack of reps with an offensive line that struggles in pass protection and a young quarterback that has just held onto the football far too long. That's an absolute recipe for disaster. So the question is going to be for Kevin O'Connell and Josh McCown, what are they going to do to make sure that's mitigated a little bit? I think you've got to lean into making sure that McCarthy's out on the perimeter, trying to get, this is a play-action-centric offense. It should become a boot-centric offense, a keeper-centric offense where the outside zone or that ball fake and then the quarterback gets out on the perimeter. A little bit more designed quarterback run on early downs. A little bit more screen to the perimeter. That's going to be the challenge to those coaches.
And it makes the health of his ankle even more important because I have to think mobility is going to be baked into this. I totally agree with you about the boots. I also think they need to be prepared for Detroit, who's the next team, to aggressively play the quarterback on the boot. Sure. So you want to punish them on the ground. I think Kevin O'Connell, this is a tall task for him, right? To make life easier for McCarthy, to speed him up, to give him checkdowns, cut the field in half the way you're describing. But he has to call the most quarterback-friendly offense yet. And at times, as much as we love this Vikings offense, some of it is longer developing concepts, right?
Totally.
So he's got to speed things up for the quarterback so that the quarterback plays.
And also, last game, no one was open. There wasn't, we can say what we want with Carson, and he wasn't great, but there wasn't a lot of people getting schemed open. And so there's a lot right now that I think schematically has to get a little bit more consistent. And then the biggest thing is, how are they going to get him to play fast without playing hurried? That's going to be a huge challenge.
This Lions defense has dealt with a ton of injuries, but Aiden Hutchinson, thank goodness, is healthy, and he is going to be trying to tee off as much as he can. Thank goodness. Unless you're JJ McCarthy. Yeah, exactly, right? Thank goodness for the Lions. All right, time for one more thing before we go. Believe
what it is. The kids need to come up with something better. I'm not cool.
Let the record show that I did not do it.
Technically, you didn't. You threw the pass.
I did not do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, Shefty yesterday on his podcast, ESPN Senior NFL Insider, as he recorded this and released this podcast 1 week away from the NFL trade deadline, prior to the 2 New England deals that were made, wondered this on the Adam Schefter podcast, available wherever podcasts are found.
Is there a move coming that nobody can see right now? Is there some kind of big name floating out there that the media has missed, whose name has not been out there, who all of a sudden is traded right before the deadline? Sometimes that happens. All of a sudden, a name creeps up. I'm like, ooh, I didn't know that this guy was going to be dealt. Chase Young a couple of years ago when Washington traded him to San Francisco. There's usually like a name that, for all the talk that we've had about the Saints receivers and the players in the Titans roster and Kyle Duggar and all these moves, there's one name like, whoa.
I don't think Adam specifically is looking for one person, but he certainly... I don't know.
Man, Adam Schefter can't say something like that and not have us speculate.
Come on.
Well, I'm glad
There
you
is
asked.
nobody that is in the know more so than him.
That's correct. So I'm glad you asked.
It seems like an informed speculation.
So I came up with a list.
Okay.
I came up with a list of players. And most of these players cannot financially be traded necessarily unless you're willing to do some things. But I have a couple of questions on these players as to whether or not their teams would actually love for them to be the big name that actually gets traded. Okay?
I know number one on this list.
So there's a few of them.
I know number one
There's
on
a
this
few.
list. Though.
Okay, I can't wait
Let's
to see
run
if you're
through.
right.
We're going to go quickly through non-quarterbacks.
Is one of them a quarterback?
I have 5 quarterbacks.
Oh, I know one of them's Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray's on
I
my
know
list.
one of them's Kyler. I
Then
knew.
you know what?
I knew that.
We'll start.
Circle that one.
You knew where he was going.
I knew that name was
We'll
there.
start with the quarterbacks then. If Arizona could trade him, would they?
Yes. Have you seen what the Cardinals look like with Jacoby Brissett as
I
the
have.
quarterback? They had back-to-back losses to the Indianapolis Colts and the Green Bay Packers by a combined 8 points. Those two teams, the Colts and the Packers, are combined 12-2-1 amongst the best in all of football, the best records in their respective conferences. And those were one-possession games, touch and go the entire time, with Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback. Now, I can't think that it puts Jonathan Gannon, the current head coach of the Cardinals, at a good spot if you trade his week 1 starter. But ultimately, if you're talking about trying to move the program forward in Arizona, you've continuously asked this question about whether or not Kyler Murray is your guy, even after you paid him. And what I always say is, if you keep having to ask the question, eventually you're going to land on the answer being no. I think that's where we're at right now with the Kyler Murray experience with the Arizona Cardinals.
So Adam says, could we see a big name traded? And I'm saying Kyler Murray could be a guy that in a dream scenario, I think the Cardinals would give him up. And that's the same kind of thing. Would the Vikings trade JJ McCarthy?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't think they would just yet. Because you
What if it's for Kyler Murray?
but you still don't know what you have with JJ. And I know that that's part of
Yeah.
the reason why you would potentially move on from him. He's been in the building now, a year and a half, because obviously he was dealing with injury last year. And I know he was very much present with Kevin O'Connell. They had those one-on-one meetings last year. They wanted him to be as much in the environment as he could be so that when he was healthy, he would be ready to go this year. So they know who he is to some extent because he's been there day in and day out, but they don't know what he is as a football player because he's been unavailable to them because of injury. And that would be a tough pill to swallow, to say this early on in his tenure when we haven't been able to get a full sample size of him that we're ready to move on from him.